August 28th, 1973, Stockholm, Sweden. Police are pumping tear gas into a bank vault. Inside that vault, 2 armed bank robbers and 4 hostages they've been holding for 6 days. The gas works. Everyone has to come out. So the police shout the obvious command, hostages first. And the hostages say, no, nobody is forcing them. They refuse because they're scared that the moment they step out, the police will shoot the 2 robbers. One hostage hugs her kidnapper goodbye. Another one yells at the police, "Don't hit him." You already know the name for this. Everybody does. Stockholm Syndrome. When prisoners fall in love with the people holding them captive. It's in movies and songs and every true crime podcast on earth. But here's what almost nobody knows. The woman at the center of this story, the hostage this entire syndrome was invented for, has spent 50 years saying one simple thing. It doesn't exist. And once you hear what really happened inside that vault, you might agree with her. Let's go back 6 days. August 23rd, a quiet Thursday morning in a bank in central Stockholm. A man walks in wearing a wig and sunglasses. His name is Jan Erik Olsson. He's an intruder who was let out of prison for a short home visit and simply never went back. Under his folded jacket, he's hiding a submachine gun. He fires it into the ceiling and yells, in English for some reason, "The party has just begun." The police show up within minutes. Olsson shoots one officer in the hand. Then he grabs 4 bank employees, Birgitta, Elizabeth, Sven, and a 23-year-old woman named Kristin. Remember Kristin? This is really her story. Olsson has a list of demands, 3 million kroner, guns, a getaway car, and one more thing, maybe the strangest demand in the history of hostage taking. He wants his friend Clark brought to the bank. Clark Olofsson, one of the most famous criminals in Sweden, who is at this very moment sitting in prison. And the government says, okay, think about that. They take a convicted bank robber out of his prison cell and deliver him into a bank robbery. Why? Because nobody has a plan. Sweden has never seen anything like this. TV cameras surround the square and the whole country is watching live. And 6 people are now locked inside a bank vault. A steel room not much bigger than a garage, with the world staring at the door. Now comes the part they never tell you properly. What actually happened in there? Day 2. Kristin is shivering with cold. Olsson, the man with the gun, takes off his wool jacket and lays it over her shoulders. At night, when she has a nightmare, he calms her down. Elizabeth panics in small spaces. The vault is crushing her. So Olsson ties a long rope around her waist and lets her walk outside the vault where she can breathe. Birgitta tries to call her family. No one picks up. She starts crying. And Olsson strokes her cheek and says, "Try again. Don't give up." At some point, he finds 3 pairs. 3 pairs, 6 people. He cuts them in half. Everyone gets an equal share. Hostages first. And then day 3. Olsson decides the police need a wake-up call. So he tells Sven, the only man among the hostages, "I'm going to shoot you. Don't worry, only in the leg. You'll live, and you can have a drink first." You know what Sven said about that moment, years later. How kind I thought he was when, for saying it was just my leg he would shoot. Stop. Freeze the picture right there. A man points a gun at you, promises to shoot you, and your brain calls him kind? That sounds completely insane. It's not. It's simple math. When one person has total power over your life, your brain stops comparing him to normal people. It compares him to what he could do to you. He could kill you, and he doesn't. He could starve you, and he shares his pairs. And suddenly, half a pair feels like a gift. A jacket feels like kindness. Your brain isn't broken when it does this. It's doing exactly what it was built to do, keep you alive, by making the man with the gun like you. Remember that, because in a minute, someone is going to call it a disease. Because here's where the story flips upside down. The most dangerous thing in that vault was not the man with the gun. By now, the police have already fired shots. They're drilling a hole through the ceiling of the vault, and they're openly preparing a gas attack. Even though Olsson has warned them, if gas comes in, he'll put ropes around the hostages' necks. Kristin can see exactly where this is going, a shootout with her in the middle. So this 23-year-old bank employee does something no hostage had ever done before. She calls the Prime Minister of Sweden from inside the vault, and she gets him on the line. The call was recorded. Word for word, she tells him, "I am not afraid of Clark and the other guy. I'm afraid of the police. Do you understand? I trust them completely." She begs him, "Let all 6 of us drive away together. Nobody gets hurt." She even volunteers to ride along as a hostage to keep everyone alive. And the Prime Minister? The way Kristin remembers it, he tells her she should be prepared to die at her post. Just look at this for a second. The kidnapper gives her his jacket. The Prime Minister tells her to die bravely. And when it's all over, she's the one everyone calls crazy. But was she? Count it out. 6 days. The only shots fired came from the police. Olsson never hurt a single hostage. Kristin looked at both sides and trusted the one that hadn't shot at anyone yet. That's not madness, that's paying attention. Day 6. The gas comes. The robbers give up. Nobody dies. And Sweden is left with one burning question. Why did the hostages defend the criminals? Why is Kristin on the radio criticizing the police instead of thanking them? Now, during the whole crisis, the police had an advisor, a criminologist named Nils Bejerot. The gas plan, the drilling, his approach, and Kristin had criticized him on live radio from inside the vault while it was happening. So when the country asked, why are the hostages attacking the police? Bejerot had an answer ready. They can't help it, he said. They're sick. He gave the sickness a name. The world came to know it as Stockholm Syndrome. And here is the detail that should have ended the whole thing on day 1. Bejerot never spoke to Kristin. Not once. Not during the 6 days. He refused. Not afterward. Never. He diagnosed a woman he never met. And what a coincidence. His diagnosis made the woman who criticized him sound crazy and made his own police plan look blameless. 50 years later, it gets even better. Stockholm Syndrome is not an official diagnosis. It never was. Psychiatry has a big rule book that lists every recognized mental disorder. Stockholm Syndrome isn't in it. And when scientists finally went looking for the research behind it, they found almost nothing. Most of what has ever been written about Stockholm Syndrome wasn't written by scientists at all. It was written by journalists, one of the most famous psychological conditions on the planet, invented on live TV by the one man who needed it to be true, about a woman he never examined. Kristin Enmark is in her 70s now, and she became, of all things, a therapist. She spent her whole life doing properly the one thing Bejerot never did with her, listening. And she still says the same thing she said back then. It's a way of blaming the victim. I did what I could to survive. That's the real ending of this story. What happened in that vault wasn't a disease. Every small kindness Kristin showed Olsen made him less likely to pull the trigger. Staying calm, building trust, making the man with the gun see you as a human being. That is not a syndrome. That is the smartest thing a trapped person can possibly do. But the label survived anyway. And to this day, it mostly gets pointed at women. Why didn't she leave him? Why did she stay? Something must be wrong with her. 50 years of asking what's wrong with the victim, instead of asking what happened to her. So the next time someone says Stockholm Syndrome, you know the truth. There was never a syndrome in that vault. There was a 23-year-old woman who kept 4 people alive with nothing but her nerve. She wasn't sick. She was the only one thinking clearly.